In February of 2024, the ransomware group Alpha orchestrated a ransomware attack that disrupted the operations of Change Healthcare. This led to a shutdown of critical services, including the processing of medical claims and pharmacy operations throughout the country. 75% of all healthcare organizations in the US were affected, and over a third of Americans had their sensitive healthcare information leaked to the dark web. All because of this attack. Well, what happened? Well, it all started with an exposed host running the desktop virtualization software developed by Citrix. An account with a compromised username and password was found to be valid on the host, leading to the ransomware attack. Once they gained access to that, they had the keys of the kingdom. What could have changed this? Did Change Healthcare know that this host was exposed to the internet and that one of their accounts was circling around in the dark web? Well, one thing that could have saved it is attack surface management. ASM, or attack surface management, has quickly become a top priority for security teams. But what exactly is it and why should you consider it? I'm Cory Wolff, Director of Offensive Security at Risk 360, and today we're talking about attack surface management. An organization's attack surface is a total of all potential routes an attacker could use for initial entry. For example, an attack surface might include a login web form an attacker could try to brute force, a misconfigured cloud bucket open to the public, an unpatched Java application on a long forgotten server, and even systems in our partner supply chain like invoicing and accounting systems with network access. These examples, plus every other potential entry point exposed to an attacker, form the total attack surface of an organization. So what exactly does attack surface management do? We can start from the offensive security perspective. Let's think about how an attacker would understand an organization's attack surface. They would start by crawling a company's online presence. They would search cloud providers like Azure and AWS to find assets belonging to the organization. They would identify any physical locations and infrastructure and use at those locations. They would look through websites and web applications to find web forms like the one that we mentioned earlier. Essentially trying the handle on every possible door until they find all of them. They take all of these open doors and identify outdated and vulnerable software and misconfigurations to try to gain entry. What about from the defensive side of the house? How can we use this knowledge to defend ourselves? Well, many businesses deploy attack surface management to get an outside-in view of their security posture. ASM can scan your digital presence like an attacker would, exposing shadow IT resources such as unclaimed cloud services and old servers running unpatched software. There will always be vulnerabilities and zero-day attacks to address, but you can only address them if you know about them and if you are actively tracking them. Through vulnerability management practices, businesses should aim to minimize the number of exposed systems. ASM helps by identifying and discovering unknown assets, then prioritizing the most at-risk systems for patching and protection. In essence, it reduces risk by uncovering hidden vulnerabilities and addressing the most critical issues first. The best ASM systems, like the one we employ at Risk 360, deliver this entirely without the need for clients to spin up resources on their own. In fact, all we really need is your permission. At Risk 360, we employ a 6-step iterative loop for attack surface management. First, we start by identifying the assets. Then, once we find those assets, we probe for vulnerabilities and identify misconfigurations. We exploit them to determine the impact and then report on them. The good thing about attack surface management is it is continuously going forward. It's always on 24/7. So, if we discover an issue and the client patches it, we can automatically validate the remediation efforts. Attack surface management is a way for organizations to continuously identify, prioritize, and remediate different issues that they may come across in their attack surface. I hope this was helpful. If you're interested about learning more about how we do attack surface management at Risk 360, make sure to visit us at risk360.com or find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else.